Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us for the HEA's next edition of the Hydrogen Byte series. This is our lunchtime webinar series where we showcase the depth and breadth of the activity of the HEA membership. And we're really excited to be joined today by Protium. Before we begin, I will just share a quick slide to demonstrate to those that aren't members. I know many that were joined on the call today are HEA members, but just to show that HEA represents a range of members right across the whole value chain, lots of members working in the production space and key developers such as Protium, as well as transportation and storage in the non-pipeline transportation space specifically, and then lots of people working in the end-use applications across industry, power and mobility applications, as well as really being the voice of the supply chain and the academic sector within the hydrogen ecosystem. So without further ado, I will introduce you to our guest today. As I said, Protium will be joining us. We're joined by Oliver Aldridge, who is the Commercial and Power Procurement Manager at Protium. Many of you will already be aware that Protium is one of the leading UK green hydrogen developers. So a really insightful presentation prepared for you today, where Ollie will be covering practical learnings in terms of Protium's for the last few years developing green hydrogen projects, and specifically sharing perspectives on the chicken and egg problem in relation to offtake and lots of details around power procurement as well. So over to you, Ollie.
Hello. Yeah, thank you for the introduction, Olivia. I'll just pull up my slides here. There we go. Hi, yeah. So as introduced, my name is Ollie. I'm the Commercial and Power Procurement Manager at Protium. So this presentation is to essentially go through the commercial challenges behind deploying a green hydrogen project, in particular vis-a-vis how you procure power, and how you structure a contract to mirror that so that it works economically and also sustainably. So the way I'll kind of structure this is to provide an overview of Protium and essentially how our experiences and how we operate today are shaped by those specific challenges with regards upstream power and downstream hydrogen offtake. Go through the kind of hydrogen value chain in terms of how a green hydrogen project works and where the different variables and levers are, and how those need to be aligned to make a successful project. And then dive into the, as we call it, chicken and egg challenge with regards to offtake. So how you basically get two things that are dependent on one another to align and make one move first, such that you make some traction in getting the project moving. So Protium overview. So yeah, we are a pure play green hydrogen company. I think the best way to describe the ethos would be, we believe that green hydrogen will have a key part of any future sustainable energy mix. Exactly what that is undefined. There's a lot of theory, there's a lot of potential end use, and there's a lot of progress being made. But ultimately, we want to be one of the pioneers that is involved in kind of blazing that trail and work out exactly what its position is. Founded in the UK, so about 7 years old now. We have 2 live production assets. Pioneer 1, 100 kilowatts, a pretty small unit, but operating since 2023, has made over 100 successful deliveries of green hydrogen. And then Pioneer 2, so 2.5 megawatt NEL system. That went live a month ago, so it was already producing gas and commissioning. Now be producing up to a ton a day of green hydrogen. We provide the gas into multiple end uses. Quite a common one at the moment is off-grid power, so sites that either need power temporarily or do not have the means to access the grid. We deploy fuel cells and deliver the hydrogen there. So examples would be construction sites, we've done music festivals as well, that kind of thing. Transport, another, and that covers quite a few different uses, gas buses, heavy goods vehicles, and even kind of passenger cars. We provide hydrogen to the Goodwood Speed Festival. industrial heating processes, so either combusting hydrogen in a boiler or using it as a feedstock in the existing process. And finally, SAF fuels, so where hydrogen is combined with waste products such as CO2 or methanol or enriched methanol to produce e-kerosene or that kind of thing. And critically, which kind of frames where this presentation is going, is we provide the technical services for that end use, because providing a simple gas as a new product is often very challenging. As a pure play developer, as I said, we have 2 production assets and multiply sized project pipelines. We have a HEA2 shortlisted project. We have pipelines we look to put through HEA3, and as went public this morning, we've recently acquired a HEA1 project. So operate across merchant and across the subsidized space as well. Okay, so in that context of how Protium works, what is the commercial challenge that we've found in order to deploy a green hydrogen system? I think the way to look at this, if you look at the 3-part supply chain or value chain, you have upstream electricity, you then convert that electricity into gas, and then you have to distribute that gas. Starting upstream electricity, which is kind of where I look after a lot of what we do, I think the key point there is to say there is no right power price. So a lot of times anyone asks about gas or any other product, they say, well, what is your price of electricity? And there kind of is no real price of electricity. Electricity is settled by half hour. There are multiple different wholesale markets. There are private bilateral markets. So there is no, this is what the price is. And as well, there's different levels of greenness as well, different levels of standard. So the main example of that being additionality versus green. So if you're looking to claim, if you look to use hydrogen to claim something like the SAF mandate or the RTFC, so for e-fuels or transport end use, you need to demonstrate that is new build green energy, i.e. electricity that would not have otherwise been used for traditional means on the grid were it not for the green hydrogen production. And how you procure that power, do you look to fix it for a long time or do you look to go for a floating price? And I think a key sort of error or misunderstanding people have about saying, okay, I want to fix my electricity price long term. But if you've fixed your long-term price of electricity, but you have not fixed the end price of your end use, i.e. your hydrogen, then that is technically an exposure to the hydrogen market. So if you pursue a floating price structure, yes, you could argue you're exposed to long electricity prices, but it's key to note that that works the other way around when you think about your downstream production. How you configure the operation as well is very much linked to that. So if you look to run the system at a relatively low load, you have a lot of upside headroom. Run a flexible system, kind of akin to how battery looks to operate. Increase load when it's windy and sunny, reduce load when it's 6 o'clock in the evening in November and price of electricity through the roof. But on the other hand, if you look to operate on a high basis, more flat base load profile, you can produce more gas, amortize the system more quickly, less exposure to sort of long run demand. And then ultimately how you look to actually distribute the production. It's not just a case of, okay, I produced the gas, brilliant. You know, if you think of electricity generation, for example, ultimately the whole name of the game is minimize your cost of production as far as possible, but then you are just deploying it onto a grid. Or likewise, if you're producing gas, you're just distributing it straight into something, or even fast-moving consumer goods. There's a straight end use. With production, how you distribute is pretty critical. So do you locate where you can have the most optimal site, but then deliver by tube trailer, which may be expensive? Or do you co-locate with the demand and you can deliver by pipeline? There's pressure to consider there. Tube trailers delivering high pressure gas, pipeline means low pressure gas, so the pressure comes out of the system. Purity as well. If it's something for if it's being used for a fuel cell, that's typically a higher spec required than if it's maybe a chemical feedstock. The certifications, as I mentioned before, does it need to be eligible for an RTFO? Does it need to be an LCHA eligible? So that means the electricity does not need to be additional, but it does need to be proven to be zero carbon. And then what is the commercial structure? So this links to the fixed versus floating power price. Have you committed to a single pound per kilogram price of hydrogen? Or is there kind of pegging indexation involved in that? So all kind of different variables that need to be brought together depending on a lot of external parameters that are yet to be defined. So if I go into the offtake part specifically, and where this differs to kind of producing other, I guess, call it commoditized products. First one, and I alluded to this before, integrating with the offtaker. So it's providing a gas, you can't just sort of turn up and deliver it like you would, an Amazon package. You need to find the system that enables it to integrate as they require. So maybe that's a refueler if it's being used for transport. If you're providing the gas at low pressure, but it's been delivered by tube trailer, you need a pressure letdown station. If it's going into their pipe work, whatever else, that all needs to integrate, assess health and safety, all the rest. And as well, what the reliability and flexibility is. So is it something that needs to be there kind of always on demand? Think, an electricity supply. Is it something that can be deposited and stored? Is the end user running a kind of variable batch running system and they can be flexible when they take delivery? Or is it something that absolutely has to be there so as not to interrupt business as usual? The merchant versus long-term question is quite interesting as well. And it comes to the classic chicken and egg. So how can you get someone to sign up for something if they don't know that supply will definitely be there? But on the other hand, how do you build a project without definitely knowing that demand will be there? And also you can extend that to how do you get the end user to be fully comfortable that they or to be fully comfortable that supply is there, and then to go and invest in the means they need to take the hydrogen. So, as I said before, if it's an incumbent fuel, that's not such a problem. But if it's a new fuel and it requires upgrading of a system, for example, changing the burner in a boiler or changing the engine in a vehicle, it's really difficult to get someone to commit to buying that new vehicle without knowing they will definitely have the supply of the hydrogen that they will require with that vehicle. And then you can take that chicken egg a step further to the OEMs of the kit that can take hydrogen, i.e., the fuel cell vehicles, the hydrogen burners, X, Y, Z. If they don't know there's going to be a downstream demand, and that downstream demand isn't there because there's not the further down, sorry, an upstream demand because there's not even a further upstream supply of hydrogen, it makes the OEMs more reluctant to deploy the system. So there's a lot of kind of like a chain of chicken and egg issues that need to be kind of assessed. Which leads into the third point, which is why we've kind of moved from a pure gas sale ethos to the wider service to that integration piece, because there is such a web of different challenges and different kind of choke points to get through. Actually helping customers along that journey to unlock that has been critical to enable us to deploy our systems, both whether that's Pioneer 2, sort of 2.5 megawatt system, multi-million pound project. That wouldn't have been, the demand wouldn't have been there if we hadn't have gone and seeded that and facilitated customers being able to take the gas. And likewise, any HEA projects, whether that's HEA 1 or HEA 2, it's not enough to just get someone to sign up to say, yes, I'll take the gas. You need to kind of take them on that journey to get comfortable in how they'll take it. So I guess to conclude that, the key points are, what is the key challenge in order to deploy a successful green hydrogen production facility? It's essentially aligning the four key variables at opposite ends of the supply chain, and to get them to find the sort of magic spot where they can both move. So determining a confidence in demand to fix your power position, but then vice versa, determining confidence demand in what you can sell your hydrogen at to fix that power, or getting confidence enough demand in your price of power such that you can quote reliable hydrogen prices downstream. Confidence in the end use readiness to actually take the gas, and subsequently enabling that end use readiness by giving those end users the confidence that the supply will be there. Determining that you've got a very, very secure and comfortable way of how you're going to operate the system, both in terms of economic optimization, but also from a health and safety perspective, and then bring all those together to actually be able to demonstrate to a third party that there is an investable case here, and that you can actually justify funding the project, whether that's debt or equity. So yeah, I'll leave it there, but thank you for listening.
Thanks, Ollie. You really jam-packed lots of insight into that presentation, so really thank you. And it's great to see, despite the complexities of delivering green hydrogen projects across the electricity, the operation, and then the end use side, it's great to see how Protium are and navigating those chicken and eggs and evolving to provide commercial examples of ways of solving those chicken and egg issues. And your expertise is very much well received and loud and clear. And definitely in terms of from a HEA side, obviously, as a trade association, we do a lot to work with government on recommending policies around the issue of building demand being one of the key growth barriers to the sector as a whole. But really great to have examples of what industry can do to overcome the demand issue in terms of market development. I think I don't think there's any. I don't know if you've got anything to add to that.
No, I just I think you've hit the nail on the head. And it just like the various different strands that you need to align. The solution is also not one dimensional either. Trade bodies can help in order to sort of stimulate. There's grant funding. There's obviously the contract for different subsidized elements as well. They're all necessary aspects to facilitate that end use. It's not as simple as just sort of say, okay, yes, end user, wouldn't it be great to take a fully green product? Let's just go and do it. You need to provide far more incentives than just the sort of sustainability angle. It needs to be safe. It needs to be economically viable. It needs to be resilient within the confines of their BAU. There's a lot of different work that needs to be done to catalyze it for sure.
Yeah, definitely. All hands on deck, basically. It would be really helpful. I know there's a couple of questions in the chat, but just from an extra one from my side, in terms of kind of Protium's experience working with different end users. I know that you've mentioned SAF, you mentioned transport applications, power application, off-grid power applications specifically. If there's any specific insights that you can give in terms of, are you seeing greater demand signals in a certain use case area, or where I appreciate you've kind of got your smaller scale projects, the kind of Pioneer 1 and 2 in South Wales, but obviously HEA 1 and 2 projects in the pipeline as well, how those, the scale of the project is also, implicates in the end use case.
I think the biggest thing we're finding right now is the geographical aspect. So both the geography, terrain of different energy demand, and also the nature of the grid. So off-grid power is quite a bit more difficult in more dense areas where typically you can just sort of deploy a battery. You can get a temporary grid connection, that kind of thing. Whereas in northern, more rural areas, so obviously it's public now that we're operating in the Highlands, the case for off-grid power is a lot stronger there because hydrogen is a lot denser and easier to move as an isolated source of energy, and we're already seeing a lot of uptake of it there. As well, typically you have a lot more use that has always been off-grid and has just always run off things like heating oil and diesel, and so there's a lot more scope to displace there because it's already a kind of it is already an active use. It's not like you're trying to kind of make someone change their process. So yeah, I'd say definitely from that sense of geographical. With regards to the end use, I think the sort of industrial case has definitely justified the HEA mechanism, because that is a kind of constant energy demand. It lends itself far more to the way HEA is structured and pegged to natural gas.
Helpful to understand that. Thanks for sharing those insights, Ollie. So there is one question in the chat, just in terms of what the status of HEA2 and HEA3, what is the expected status of HEA3? I can come in from HEA side, but I don't know whether you want to share your perspectives.
No, please, you go first. I wouldn't want to speak on behalf of the government because I'd have the exact same question. We hear different kind of insights, but a concrete answer, my guess is as good as yours, Nick.
Yeah, I think it's a constant evolving work stream to be able to just receive updates from different government departments on the status of HEA. From a HEA side, very much hearing from DESNZ that increased pressure from the industry collectively working together to maintain the momentum and putting pressure on the government is the best approach. Obviously we appreciate that the government has a range of competing priorities at the moment, so it's just keeping hydrogen front and center and evidencing the material damage of that we're already experiencing in terms of investment flight, job creation, in the delays to the next steps on HEA2 and seeing what the minded position to is for the HEA3 market engagement. So the HEA is working directly with the Treasury and DESNZ and other government departments to do what we can collectively to provide sufficient evidence base to be able to get the HEA2 next steps prioritised. So please do get in touch if you wish to provide a case study for the HEA, because that's definitely something that we can drip feed into government and is well received and provides them with just more ammunition to be able to justify the importance of these announcements. So that's from the HEA side. There will be those that are HEA members, there will be letters to MPs going out today as well. So very much encourage the relationship between industry and MPs can be quite powerful in mobilising political pressure as well. So we're inviting MPs and members to write to the MPs to table oral questions, just to keep that political pressure building. So that's from the HEA side.
I think the only insight we can kind of add to that is the way that one is linked to the other. So the steer we got from LCCC is they don't want to announce HEA3 until the HEA2 shortlisting is announced, because that enables anyone who's failed to progress in HEA2 can re-enter into HEA3. And given the consultation process is expected to be 6 months, the way we're looking at it is once that announcement is made, that's a 6-month starting gun to get ready to have the bids ready to submit.
Yeah. Yes.
When that starting gun goes, as you alluded to, is still very much anyone's guess. It could be imminent, but then it could have been imminent for the last year or so.
Exactly, yeah, and the same is with the hydrogen strategy refresh. We appreciate that progress on HEA2 is kind of the clear investment signal that would do the most to boost confidence with those third parties that you mentioned earlier, Ollie, and bringing them along the journey. But obviously the hydrogen strategy refresh in terms of a renewed strategic direction to kind of clarify government's position on certain end use cases as well is an important piece of the puzzle. So working hard on that. I'd like to invite anybody else that's got any further questions to pop in the chat. Otherwise, we will wrap up the session. I'll just give those a couple of moments to write anything additional, Ollie. Okay, great. It doesn't look like there's any questions, so that's testament to the clarity of your presentation, Ollie. But thank you very much. There's some thanks already in the chat, so thank you very much for joining us today. The slides that Ollie, if you're happy to share them in a PDF format, then I can circulate that with the attendee list, and the recording will be available on the HEA's Hydrogen Bytes page on the website. I don't know if people kind of have want direct contact for Protium, if you can indicate where the best place to direct any inquiries, or if there's any specific questions in relation to your presentation, then there is a question in the Q&A area, Liv. Just double check that if you're happy to stay on for one more question. So Matt is asking, what is your current LCOH and what are you targeting? I think big question to end on, but
yeah, I mean, that is a very subjective question. I think I'd be swiftly fired in the morning if I shared a specific number. But yeah, the short answer is with small projects, it is quite a bit higher than with large projects. Is probably the best I can share with that. I think the key way to frame it would be the public strike price on HEA1 was around the £9 to £10 a kilogram range, and we would expect that to be quite a bit lower in HEA2. So that's quite a good kind of benchmark with that. And the way we see it is long term, when you get up to sort of north of 50 megawatt scale, to be targeting close to diesel parity, depending on how that behaves on a calorific basis. But to say it's a bit like, what is the price of power? Protium's LCOH is literally very, very project specific, and ultimately the way I look at LCOH is levelized numbers. It's essentially saying the cost in today's money of all production over the project's lifetime. Now, I don't know what the price of power or the price of even council tax, the price of staff will be in 5 or 6 years' time. It's just a projection, and you don't retrospectively calculate that when you're well into a project. So we have our ranges, but it is very variable. And again, come back to the challenge of how you make the downstream commercials work.
Thanks, Ollie. There is another question that's just come in, or an observation. So I'll just read out this comment, if that's okay.
Sure.
So electrolysis and steam methane reforming aren't the only processes that can liberate hydrogen. Most properties in the developed world have access to a hydrogen compound by exploiting the established spontaneous thermochemical reaction. We could produce thermal energy and liberate hydrogen for conversion to electrical energy on demand at the point of use. Have Protium considered this? I've slightly shortened that, but yes, helpful to understand your perspective on different production pathways and whether Protium are just looking at exploring electrolytic hydrogen or
yeah. The short answer is no, we've not looked at alternative pathways. We started out as a pure play green hydrogen approach, and the reason for sticking with that is it's where our competitive advantage is. So we've from the very beginning looked at the kind of hydrogen or energy as a service aspect, and so given that your feedstock is electricity, it's an area that we kind of have developed a lot of expertise, a lot of learnings in, and then going further downstream, yeah, we've kind of focused more of our efforts on how you make the end use work as opposed to different production pathways.
Thanks, Ollie. I think that's a sensible approach, given the importance of bringing the end users on the hydrogen journey to develop our market collectively. Well, thank you very much for joining us today, and thanks for answering those questions and popping the inquiries email in the chat, and most of all for the presentation. And there's lots of thank yous in the chat, so and just a final thank you from me. So hope everyone has a lovely day, and see you all on the next Hydrogen Bytes.
Pleasure. Thank you. Bye.